Hello, good evening. This is HimanshuBhayani, and you're watching the digital video news bulletin in English language from datelinegujaratnews.com. So, what is the news to which the world woke up? World woke up to the news mainly from the Asian subcontinent. Very important meetings were today held between the U.S. House head and the Taiwanese president. Which definitely there were repercussions of this because China had warned that this meeting should not happen. So the Chinese aircraft carriers engaged in drill near Taiwan. So kind of give a message that this is not okay. And equally there was a meeting held between the defense ministers of, the foreign ministers of Saudi Arabia and Iran in Beijing today. And the meeting largely ended on a good note with the flight routes to restart between Saudi and Iran. Keeping in view this development in Taiwan between the US House and Taiwanese president, the meeting which happened, China started acting a little naughty. It said that we would like to inspect the ships in the Taiwan Strait, to which the Taiwan refused and said they are not ready to cooperate. Shandong carrier, reported off coast of Taiwan president flies home to the US port the US House Speaker, and an interesting piece from mainland China which reads that why China recalled the millions of copies of newspaper, and the reason is very interesting. There was a photo of Xi Jinping meeting some diplomat, but the name was not written, and so the millions of copies of People's Daily newspaper were recalled. Even the broker, the distributors and the people who throw the newspapers, they were told to destroy the copies but not to deliver it because the name was missing. This is how the dictators, this is how the authoritarian governments in the world work. The foreign minister, as I said, of Iran and Saudi Arabia met today at Beijing. The meeting of these two diplomats is more than 7 years they are meeting for the first time. So that's how it is. In Middle East, Iran has foiled a drone attack on the defense ministry in Isfahan, while in other set of news, mainly from the Russia and Ukraine war zone, Russia and US are in the hot phase of war. The cold phase is over. The Cold War phase is over. Now they are in the hot phase of the war. That is the kind of statement, diplomatic statement, which has come from Russia. Russian official wanted by ICC, International Criminal Court for war crimes, Maria Belova. She was speaking at UN. So when she started speaking at UN in an informal meeting of the Security Council about the Ukrainian children taken to Russia, UK and US envoys, Malta representative, they left the room. They just did not leave the room. They ensured that even the webcast was blocked. So they said that Russia was kind of spreading disinformation. So they were kind of boycotting this and they left the room. In other developments, Zelensky has he aims for a Western warplane coalition, and he says that if this happens, it will be a kind of help for Ukraine to fight Russia. Otherwise, the way Russia is going aggressive in Bakhmut, there are all chances and all possibilities that Ukraine could pull out from Bakhmut. Institute of Study of War, ISW, which is a think tank, they have a new assessment, and they say that Russia is trying to use nuclear threats with accession of Finland in NATO. Now there is no option with Russia, but they would try to do all this gimmicking and techniques using their nuke might. That's what it would be. And in other developments in Russia, a Russian oligarch is found dead. So this is the 9th death of a businessman. 8 businessmen have died in some circumstances. Don't know what is going on with the capitalist and this business class in Russia, but this is what it is. In other reactions from Middle East or in other developments which are shaping in Middle East, because the geography of Israel and Palestine, that has become like a hot crucible which might be treated anytime in a hot furnace. So with detention of 400 Palestinians from Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem by Israel cops, most of the world leaders have condemned this, they have criticized this. They've termed this as a red line, especially the Turkish leader and the EU leadership. And in other developments from Asia, Pakistan military has eliminated 6 militants near Afghan border. That's what the claims are made. And South African pilot witnesses a kind of snake in plane moment because a cobra was found in a cockpit which kind of crawled over the pilot and got under his feet. So imagine a situation, cobra in a cockpit, what would have happened? Kashif founder Bob Lee has been stabbed to death in San Francisco streets. The cops are investigating the matter as to what has been the reason he has been stabbed to death. And Army and FBI, in a drill exercise, they raided a wrong hotel, nabbing a wrong person, and a lot of hue and crying is going in this direction. Bill Clinton has shot on his own foot, saying that he's to be blamed for Russia's invasion on Ukraine. He said, if I would have been a little tighter with the kind of nuke provisions with Russia, then this would have not happened. So he's blaming himself now for this, what all is happening. Hardly, I think, politicians ever come out saying this, that I have to blame myself for what all has happened. Any which ways, a former Italian Prime Minister is being treated in an intensive care unit in Milan, in a hospital in Milan, and with 500 plus sperm donations in New Zealand, almost kids from the same DNA. Kiwi incest clan is facing a heartbreaking truth. Kids are asking their parents, their mother, if they are brothers to their father, or fathers if they are mothers were their sisters. So this is a kind of problem which has surfaced, a new set of social problem in New Zealand. Cruising ahead in Asia, Asia, absolutely the news is dominated with the news pack from Middle East and of course the Southeast Asia and the meetings between Taiwanese head and the US head and US House head and leaders of Saudi and Iran. But China vows a resolute response to the high-level US meet with Taiwan leader. That's what China has said. In similar development, Manila and Kuala Lumpur will be negotiating with Beijing in South China Sea. So Manila and Kuala Lumpur, meaning Philippines and Malaysia, and experts say the bilateral oil and gas exploration with China may cause friction with ASEAN countries. So they're trying to negotiate this because even Anwar Ibrahim, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, said that he's ready to talk on the South China Sea, and especially he said that Petronas project is already in the Malaysian water territory. So that is not in dispute, but other things we can sort out and settle out. That's what he meant to say. US top officials, they're meeting the top Philippines officials to ensure that they're expanding their defense pact and how they can counter China and the situation in the South China Sea and of course North Korea together. And US trade representatives are seeking a kind of closer ties with the allies, Asian allies, keeping in view if a situation goes wrong in case of situation escalating between Taiwan and China or between North Korea and South Korea. A man who tried to extort almost $200,000 Singapore dollars from Marina Bay Sands in form of casino chips, because Marina Bay Sands is a casino also. So he went over there without a mask. He had a dinner. He had he was without vaccine certificate. He managed to get in, and then he said that this is wrong, and he tried to blackmail Marina Bay Sands, saying that I'll go ahead and talk about this. So there was a legal case, and now the person has been sent to jail. He has been given a jail term. Nepal has assumed the chairmanship of the Global Coordination Bureau of the least developed countries. So that's the development on Nepal front. And Chinese authorities in Tibet, they are going to the place, they are going after the relatives of the self-immolating protesters. The protesters who tried to burn themselves, they are not catching them, but they are catching the relatives of those protesters in Tibet. So this is how the authoritarian governments work in the world. What's happening in the Middle East? So Middle East, largely the news is dominated again with the same Saudi-Iran things and developments in Israel. Equally, US, General Mark Milley's warning last week that US wouldn't allow Iran to have a fielded nuclear weapon alarmed Israel defense and intelligence officials. Specifically, the officials were concerned with the word fielded, which they thought meant that US change its policy on Iran and it would allow Tehran to develop a nuclear weapons program. So responding to which, the IDF chief, that is the Israel Defense Force chief, has said that Israel is ready to attack Iran, and that too without US help. This is going on in Middle East. Equally, the Iran has foiled the drone attack on Isfahan and that defense complex. And IRGC commander has warned Israeli regime of stern measures, strong and decisive response, as one of the Iranian military advisors who lost his life in Israeli air raid on Damascus last week was laid to peace. Was laid to rest in peace. So that meeting this morning has come from the IRGC commander. Pakistani PM has denied any sort of relationship with Israel, saying that there is no relationship with, there's no Pakistani-Israeli relationship. So they are trying to corner themselves away in this problem between Iran, Syria and Israel. Swiss lender, Credit Suisse, which is already into news, but this time some good news for Swiss lender Credit Suisse, that they have won a 41 million lawsuit against member of Saudi royal family, where over a loan to refinance a super yacht. So the London court has given this ruling, and in this case, bank's case, Prince Fahad bin Sultan bin Abdulaziz Al Saud is liable to pay his company Burgundy Sea Limited debts to Swiss Credit. Sorry, that's the deal. Going ahead in Africa, what's happening in Africa? The South African nations have shortage of US dollars, so eroding currency, inflation, it's burning the economies, and this is a new problem. How they are solving it, that's something to be seen. Kenya, a debate is going on why Kenya needs job creators and not job seekers. So governments worldwide come with a commitment of giving the jobs, and then they say that you become a job giver, not a job seeker. It's happening in Kenya also. And a Nigerian customer arrested 13 people with contraband consignment of shells of pangolin, which is a wildlife species, and some hard drugs. So they engaged into kind of contraband smugglings of wildlife products and hard drugs. Boko Haram has strike back in Borno, killing civilians, and South Sudan has denied any UN intimidation, saying that senior officials have been implicated for crimes. So we don't want any UN intervention or interference in our areas. Security Council will be holding a closed session on April 19 to discuss developments concerning to the situation in Western Sahara, some development related projects. And Nollywood actress, Nollywood as in the Nigerian film industry, Nollywood actress Kechi Blessings has responded to a man who has demanded a one-night stand. Kechi is considered to be the Rakhi Sawant of Nigerian film industry, so you can understand how she would have responded. Going ahead, in Europe, what is happening? There's UK will be introducing new custom rules. It would be a kind of light touch set of rules for the goods coming from EU to UK, and UK may seize Spanish sovereign assets amid international arbitration, which was given by World Bank, and it's a 2 billion euros arbitration where Spanish sovereign assets in London, which includes country's cultural institute, bank accounts and Catalan government's embassy building, they may seize it. That's as per the UK High Court orders on March 27. Interesting analysis given on in Reuters, and this is a very good analytical piece which reads that how the Western curbs on the Russian oil products are redrawing the global shipping map, because till now most of the oil was shipped through the Strait of Hormuz in Gulf, but now the sea routes have changed, and how this is kind of, because if sea routes change, vessels also consume a lot of diesel, so it's oil any which ways, either this way or that way, whatever you do. And NATO now has one of the Europe's most powerful armies, with Finland membership, and its standing force of around 19,000 can quickly grow to 280,000. And Western Europe's strongest artillery and huge reserve army. That's what Finland brings to NATO. And with the defense a priority ever since the first Finnish-Soviet war, its membership will strengthen its alliance Baltic Sea presence also. That is a kind of analytical piece which has been written in the European media. It's worth a read. And Northern Europe's security is to weaken after Finland's accession in NATO. That is what the Russians have also agreed. and they have beefed up the military in northwest basically, and they see that this could really lead to some other problems. In other developments, the Irish Times view on visit by EU leaders to Beijing is seen as trying to nudge China, because Beijing's willingness to back Russia in Ukraine will be a determining factor in the EU-China relations for years to come. Whereas in the contrast of the above viewpoint, what is happening really on the ground is that the NATO chief, Jens Stoltenberg, he has warned China of consequences if China supplies arms to Russia. It would be a historic mistake with the profound implications if China provided lethal aid to Russia. That is what Stoltenberg has warned. So on one hand, European leaders are trying to understand China and its stand on Russia and Ukraine. On the other hand, NATO chief is giving a stern warning: if you supply arms to Russia, consequences could be direly destructive. In which ways, EU had plans to buy, the shells which are used, the bomb shells, etc. It's a kind of scrap, to buy it from Ukraine. But now it has hit a little legal snag, because in that case, if EU is buying it, who will get the money? Who will fund this buying basically? So this is the problem. It goes from one pocket to another pocket, and again it comes from another pocket to another pocket. So they are trying to solve that. Going ahead, in American Dream and what's happening with America, breast enhancements products, that is breast massagers, creams and supplements, that market is expected to grow between 2021 to 2026 at a compound annual growth rate of 4.17%. It's expected to add another $69 million in just 5 years. These products are largely sold on the retail stores like Walmart and all these places. Climate is a spoiler sport in Canada because heavy rains, hailstorms forecast for Ontario. Millions of homes are without power. Cities hit with thunderstorms, heavy rains and snowfall, and equally there are reports of ice storms likely to hit Ontario and eastern Quebec. In deaths of Indians and Romanians on the US-Canada border, Justin Trudeau, he has demanded a probe behind this whole episode, because there are even immigration defense groups which have kind of alleged that the deaths were result because of the strict border policies and crossing on the illegal crossing. So this is what has happened. Meanwhile, an Indian man has been extradited. His name is Shailendra. He has been extradited from Canada to US, and he has been charged with the human smuggling. He was smuggling Indian nationals into US through the Canadian route. So he has been kind of extradited from Canada to US. And FBI led an operation titled Cookie Monster, and they've taken down the cybercrime marketplace, which was engaged in kind of notorious activities of stolen identities and data of individuals. So they have brought down that entire cybercrime marketplace. It was a joint operation, and it's done across USA and Canada. A Canadian person he couldn't open his suitcase. He said that the codes were with his wife and something. So finally the authorities broke his suitcase, and what they found with they found 33 kilos of weeds, ganja. So what do people smuggle in? That's interesting. Any which ways, most of the leaders have remained away from criticizing the Trump felony charges. But Mexican president has criticized the felony charges on Trump, and he has spoken in favor of Trump. He said this is not legal and this is not right. So I think let's see, other leaders will now come up probably, and they might give their response on this. Wealth of world's 25 richest has eroded by almost $200 billion in just last 1 year, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is likely to contest for presidential polls in US. So he would be the second Democrat challenging Joe Biden. And what could be the repercussions of a cashless society in US? That's an interesting opinion piece in the US media. Gun culture has been encouraged in US to an extent because the way students go on rampant firing in the schools and everything. Now Tennessee lawmakers, they've advanced a bill which will allow the teachers to carry firearms without notifying the parents. So teachers will be carrying guns and firearms without notifying the teachers. That's a bill from Tennessee. God only knows what will happen. Coming to Latin American landscape, 11 Latin American nations, they have come up, they have braced up to fight the inflation, and they see that inflation is coming, recession is coming, and they need to fight it. The Cancun beach killings are linked to one of the drug gang leaders dubbed as the Panther. The authorities have rewarded almost $50,000 on Panther. US government has issued one more set of sanctions, keeping in view targeting one single individual in Haiti related sanctions, and the Treasury website says that this is keeping in view one particular person. And equally, the Haiti crisis is in spotlight because top human rights body wraps up the marathon sessions on Haiti. They say this is useless because UN has also warned that it's becoming a gang rule state. The Haitian gangs are everywhere in Florida, in Miami. They're engaged in all sort of illegal drug trafficking, human trafficking, weapons trafficking, money laundering, everything. Hurricane forecasters, they embark on preparedness mission to Mexico and Caribbean to a public invited tour basically, and US Air Force reserves Hurricane Hunter aircraft to this tour. They let them tour in this Hurricane Hunter aircraft and take a gauge of the situation, especially in the climate change and the hurricane forecast basically. Long-term strategic relationship in areas of cyber security between China and Cuba, that has been inked basically. Those papers have been inked today, and Bolsonaro denies of doing anything in a Saudi jewel case. Equally, Petrobras says that government has yet not proposed any potential price policy change. Of course, the oil production data of Brazil is very good. For February and March, it has been quite encouraging. Even from the shipping data, it is seen that a lot of oil has been extracted from Brazil. But Brazil's Petrobras till Wednesday did not have any instructions on price policy change. Argentina's industrial output has taken a hit on a year-on-year basis in the month of February, which was 6.3% last year, has dipped to minus 1.4%. And the inflation is also all-time high, 100% plus. So Argentina is trying to find solutions. They have unveiled a kind of third soybean dollar program to boost the farmer sales, the agriculture sales. But despite all measures, billions in legal losses are set to push Argentina on a closer brink, because a pair of back-to-back court losses tend to push Argentina's already precarious finances to brink. Now, adding fuel to the fire, what the Argentinian government has done is that they have kind of hiked taxes on import to all the companies as it tries to buffer up its reserves in US dollars. So they think that they will tax the companies who are importing something, and they will take that money, which is in US dollars, and increase their reserves. But this is kind of, boomeranging back, because with this import hike, the manufacturers are facing burns of high price for the raw materials they have to import. So analysts, experts and opinions are of, experts and analysts and economists are of opinion that Argentina's hike in import taxes to hit manufacturers really hard. Going ahead, we talk of Playful Pacifics. Playful Pacifics woke up to the earthquake jolts. Light magnitude of 4.6 at New Zealand and a deep magnitude 5.4 at Papua New Guinea. The New Zealand Intel Agency's annual report warns over the fear and dangers of attempts of some countries to interfere with New Zealand's democracy, economy and civil society. This was even warned by the intelligence chief in a Senate briefing in New Zealand before 1 week, and this is a kind of repetition based on the annual report data. The two defense ministers, Australian defense minister and New Zealand defense minister, met today to discuss the geopolitical threat level rising in the Pacific, South Pacific Sea and South China Sea, and keeping in view the situation between China and Taiwan and North Korea and South Korea, and that area basically, the Playful Pacifics. New Zealand Defence Force, they have kind of engaged into trials of beach landing equipments in Fiji. They've done it successfully. And the New Zealand kiwi fruit growers, they say they would like to retain the levy. They vote the referendum in favor of retaining the levy, saying that the apex body which is growing the fruits, if the levy is there on their exports, except the fruit sent to Australia, the levy is used back to fund the activities of the apex body. So they don't mind paying something as a tax which is coming back to their body only for their kind of funding and activities. In other developments from frozen polar, of course, China tries to maintain its dominance on the polars with some narrow openings of Arctic cooperation yet remain open. But the new melting data which has emerged is quite scary. That is what the glaciologist has to say. Glaciologist is somebody who studies the glaciers. And the scary new data on the last ice age raises concerns about the future sea levels. So yes, there is something which is not right with the Arctics, polars, frozen polars, and that is making impact on the climate change also. Almost over 8,000 soldiers perfect Arctic combat skill during kind of multinational readiness exercise. So this has been largely been done by NATO forces, US and Canada, and Arctic is literally heating up, as the scene of strategic competition goes, where China is also keen to now enter Arctic. Turkey is also trying to keen and hit on the North Sea route of Russia. And Arctic warming is to extreme winter weather in mid-latitude. So study shows that melting Arctic ice may lead unpredictable winter weather across the globe and its future. And despite, a lot of efforts being made to understand this entire ecological change and effect in environment, winters are going to be severe. That's a kind of warning from Arctics and from polars. So this was the news for the day. Thanks a lot. Tomorrow is Good Friday. Wishing you greetings on the Good Friday, and thank you for listening us patiently. Thank you for viewing our website. Thank you and good night, and have a good day.